The story begins with a beautiful girl named Jamie, who is going out with a boy named Adam. In the middle of dinner, Jamie reveals that she dreams of becoming a professional kickboxing fighter. She wants to make a living by punching and kicking other people. When the date ends, they say goodbye with a kiss. Jamie returns home and gets into the bathtub to relax while talking to a friend on her cell phone. Without her noticing, someone wearing a mask enters her house and kidnaps her. In the next scene, Jamie wakes up and finds herself trapped in a strange, empty room with only a camera up high. Frightened, she screams for help and bangs on the door. The door opens, revealing a dark corridor ahead. The movie I'm summarizing is called Raise, Fight, or Die. This film is very interesting, mixing horror with action and suspense. I confess that the ending is the part that blew my mind. That's why I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and follow me in this summary. Jamie walks cautiously and soon encounters another woman named Sabrina, who is wearing the same clothes as Jamie. Distrustful of her, Jamie tells her to stay away, but Sabrina says she's also a hostage. After that, while the two try to get out of there, the door closes behind them, locking them in a round room. Out of nowhere, Sabrina says, "Forgive me," and lunges at Jamie. Jamie doesn't understand what's happening but reacts, resulting in an intense fight between them. During the chaos, Jamie questions why she's doing this, and Sabrina responds, "I have to." In the end, Sabrina overpowers Jamie and hits her repeatedly until she kills her. Desperate, she screams, asking how many more deaths she'll have to cause. The scene then changes to a couple, Joseph and Elizabeth, who are the masterminds behind all this. They have kidnapped various women and are promoting lethal fights between them. They film all the confrontations in the fighting arena, broadcasting live to their wealthy clients. It seems they do this for financial profit from rich people in exchange for entertainment. Back in captivity, Sabrina is awakened by the distressed screams of other women. Shortly after, Joseph announces the results of the previous fights and chooses the next fighters. The fate of the fighters' relatives depends on their survival in the fights. The game continues, and we see two other women, Dee and Phoebe, heading to the same round arena for the confrontation. On the way, Dee says that her younger sister is in danger, and Phoebe says that her mother is also at risk of dying. Soon, the fight begins, and Phoebe gets the upper hand. She delivers a violent blow to Dee, who dies quickly. Meanwhile, a cellmate from another block named Cody tries to strike up a conversation with Sabrina. She introduces herself and reveals that when she was very young, she witnessed her father's violence against her mother. This has deeply affected her to this day. Soon after, the chief of guards who watches over the prisoners, Kurtz, enters Sabrina's cell to bring her food. He congratulates her on her recent victory, thanks to which her daughter will have one more day to live. Sabrina denies being the girl's mother and says she doesn't care about her fate. This angers Kurtz, so he grabs her by the neck and puts a gun to her head. He threatens her to control herself, or he won't treat her with privileges anymore. Then, he and other guards take 6 prisoners, including Sabrina and Phoebe, to a room where they are strapped to chairs. When the guards leave, Phoebe speaks up, saying she loves to fight and asking how many more she will eliminate. Unlike her, the other women just want to escape this nightmare. They are interrupted by the arrival of Joseph and Elizabeth. Joseph says they brought 50 women to the place, and now only 22 remain. Elizabeth addresses Sabrina and recognizes her fighting ability, while Phoebe catches Joseph's interest. The couple explains that the final winner will be determined in 3 days, and this champion will be freed from the place. When the session ends, they return to their cells, and Phoebe keeps provoking Sabrina. Sabrina gets irritated and headbutts Phoebe, but the guards quickly intervene and separate the two, preventing them from continuing the fight. Later, a prisoner named Teresa asks Sabrina if she served in the army. Sabrina confirms with a yes, and Teresa suggests they escape from the facility. Cody, another ally of theirs, also agrees and says they just need to kill the guards. But Sabrina says it's not that simple, because they and their family members are being closely watched. One mistake could cost the lives of those they love. Overcome with emotion, Sabrina starts crying and says that she gave her daughter up for adoption, but now she's being monitored all the time. In the next scene, Cody is chosen to fight against a prisoner named Marisa. The other women watch the fight on a small TV screen in their cell. Cody manages to win against her opponent by luck using a choking technique. Next, Sabrina is forced to fight consecutive death matches with two women named Gloria and Alex, but she defeats both. She's so tired that she falls unconscious on the floor. Soon after, some soldiers invade the fighting area and carry her away. Meanwhile, the rich watch these fights live on a huge TV screen. Teresa is taken to the next fight, and her opponent is Rachel. When the fight begins, the two exchange punches, but Teresa manages to take Rachel to the ground. Feeling that she's dying, Rachel, with a tearful voice, asks Teresa to tell her husband that she loves him very much. She agrees, and Teresa strangles Rachel until she stops breathing. The next fight calls Anne and Brenda, two women who are dragged from their cells. Anne obeys, but Brenda panics and refuses to fight. Elizabeth is called by the guards, who can't get Brenda out of the cell. She goes to the location and talks to Brenda, saying that either she fights or her mother dies. Brenda, however, revolts and headbutts Elizabeth, making her bleed. Elizabeth gets irritated and decides that Brenda is useless, kills her mother, and ends up shooting her without mercy. She even says that she needs to find another to take her place, as if this were something normal. Meanwhile, Sabrina regains consciousness and finds herself strapped to a table. She manages to break free, but is captured by a guard before reaching another table full of knives. Back in her cell, Sabrina tries to call her friends, Teresa and Cody, but hears nothing. To her horror, she discovers that the two will face each other in a fight. In the arena, Cody and Teresa don't want to fight each other. Teresa wonders what would happen if they simply refused to fight. Cody responds that it would mean death for them and their family members. Teresa then asks about Cody's mother, but she reluctantly hits her instead of answering. Even so, Teresa doesn't react and continues talking about her husband, who is sick and in the ICU. She states that maybe it's better for him if she dies. Thinking about how much Cody depends on her mother, Teresa decides to let her win the fight. They pretend to fight, in which Teresa puts Cody's hand on her throat, telling her to squeeze harder. She then lets herself fall to the ground, allowing Cody to choke her to death. When the fight ends, Cody moves away from Teresa's body and begins to sob. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much time to recover, as Phoebe is soon taken to the fighting room to face her. On the way, Phoebe taunts Sabrina, saying she's going to finish off her friend. Sabrina warns her not to touch Cody, but Phoebe dismisses her and continues on her way whistling. Upon arriving at the location, Phoebe continues her provocation, making jokes about father abuse, triggering Cody's trauma. This irritates Cody, who starts the fight with a punch. However, Phoebe easily manages to dominate and beat Cody mercilessly. In the end, she finishes Cody by crushing her head against the wall without mercy. After this episode, Phoebe declares her desire to fight Sabrina. She was lucky that if the black girl hadn't let Cody win, she would have taken a beating of that caliber. In the cell, Sabrina also expresses her willingness to face Phoebe and addresses Kurtz to ask for authorization for this. Kurtz responds arrogantly that she can have fun as much as she wants because they're going to kill her daughter anyway. Then, he returns to the control room and opens the door to Sabrina's cell, who runs to where Phoebe is. She attacks Phoebe in a furious mode, venting all her anger on her. Sabrina lands strong blows that throw Phoebe to the ground, but she keeps laughing. This only increases Sabrina's fury, who applies even more violent punches and kicks until she kills her. After that, Phoebe's body is removed, but Sabrina is ordered to stay in the combat chamber as she still has one more opponent to face, who is a new substitute called Isabel Thomas. Joseph reveals that there has never been a final between a rookie and a veteran. He says that Isabel is a former college competitor who received a full scholarship. She owns a gym with her husband and also practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now Sabrina is in trouble. Joseph declares that the winner of this fight will be the supreme champion. Soon after, when Isabel arrives at the combat arena, Sabrina asks if she has any idea why she's there. Isabel responds with a no, making Sabrina explain the rules. If you refuse or lose, your family members will die. As expected, Isabel doesn't believe any of this, so Sabrina starts the fight with a blow. In response, Isabel knocks her to the ground and manages to control her with her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. At one point, Isabel holds Sabrina's neck, who then begs her to end this. Isabel then twists Sabrina's neck, making her fall to the ground. The fight ends, and Isabel is announced as the winner. The guards take Sabrina's body to the morgue. Soon after, Joseph and Elizabeth enter the place to meet the winner. After thanking Kurtz for his work, they call him to celebrate outside the building with the rich people. In the corpse room, Sabrina pretends to be dead and surprises an employee who was going to touch her, stabbing him with a knife. She reveals that she faked her death and wants to escape the building. Soon after, another employee enters the room, and Sabrina also cuts his throat. She slowly leaves the room and starts eliminating the guards one by one. She reaches the room where Joseph and Elizabeth are talking with Isabel. Sabrina attacks the couple without delay and tries to release Isabel. In the confusion, Elizabeth grabs a bar and hits Isabel, killing her. Sabrina retaliates and fights with Elizabeth, throwing her out the window where she falls and dies. Without thinking twice, Joseph grabs Sabrina by the throat and tries to strangle her to death, but she manages to grab a sharp piece of wood from the floor and stabs it into his neck, taking his life. Meanwhile, Kurtz is at the party when he sees something that makes him suspicious. He decides to return to the base, but encounters Sabrina at the elevator door. He doesn't even have time to draw his weapon, as Sabrina hits him with a stick and finishes him off with a knife. After that, she heads towards the party hall, causing astonishment among the rich guests. She goes to the main gate and finally steps out into the daylight. Then she runs across a wooden bridge in search of her freedom. However, her escape is interrupted when she is shot in the back by a guard, who turns out to be Adam, the same guy from the opening scene. He is shown as a recruiter who finds the women and takes them to the base. The film ends with Sabrina having one last vision of her daughter before dying from her injuries. The film can be seen as a metaphor for the struggle for survival. The women in the film need to fight to survive in a hostile and violent environment. This is a representation of the struggle that many people face in real life. Write in the comments what you thought of the film, and don't forget to leave a like and activate the bell. So, until the next recap.